Hello, everyone. Let me adjust. I think, let me know. I'm going to switch my microphone over. Right, switched over. Should be a little bit clearer now. Welcome, everyone. You'll be able to see me in just a moment after I get set up here. There we go. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? We are indeed going bandage free today. Once there's like more light on me, I think it won't. Well, it doesn't matter. I was sick of the bandage after 3 weeks, so I'm taking a break today. And I hope you're doing well. And we're doing a lovely class today that's all about brio wrapping. So I'm going to flip over around the camera in just a moment to kind of show you what we're working on. I know, I think I've shocked everyone. It's Friday the 13th. There's no bandage. I thought my camera would kind of blur everything over because it often does that. It did not. So I hope I didn't freak anyone out. But it's just, at this point, it's pretty much just like a scar. And it's about 30 times better than it was 3 weeks ago. So I'm very thankful for that, that all that is healing along. And another week, maybe it'll be even lighter. And then you'll have seen the difference. So let me go ahead and add the other camera here. Oh, I did that wrong. Hold on. There we go. And get a little bit more light on here. Should be able to see this okay. This is the sort of class today. We are starting our weekend. If you don't have a fuzzy blanket in your lap, staying warm, then you're not starting your beading out right today. I am so excited about, this is my favorite sort of class because it is playing with wire. I am like a firm believer that it's like any technique. The more you work and mess around, break the rules with your wire, the better and more comfortable you will feel with it. I feel like that's how I figure out most things. Like, I want to add a seed bead there. Like, let me try a few ways to do it. And you kind of iterate until you find the method that works for you. I guarantee this is how like Sarah gets to a lot of her techniques. She is trying something, adjusting, making a different measurement, trying a different gauge wire, like just kind of that iteration, and you'll start to figure out how to get the wire to work for you. So my goal today is to show you a few ideas for getting your brios decorated as fancy as possible. So let me try to zoom that in just a little bit. We'll see. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Apparently I have all these like new features that are supposed to let us see it better, but we'll see if that's true. Okay, we're going to skip that. And we'll just do the good old manual, move the phone zoom. So these are a few of the ideas. The initial idea was literally super simple wrap with the addition of some seed beads here. And then from there, it grew into more seed beads and then into kind of some extra decoration. And then I was like, no, I want to do more with it. So I added a version, and this is where the experimenting came in. I wanted to be able to wrap around with the seed beads as well. So let me show you where this started. See if that one it's right here. So the first version of the wraparound started as a more standard brio wrap. And then from there, I kind of kept messing with it so that the seed beads could be lower and below the wrap. So you see how this one has the wraps at the top and then goes into the seed beads. I ultimately liked that look more. So, but even from there, it wasn't quite what I wanted because there was still a good bit of movement of the brio itself. So on the next one, which was this one, I added a spiral to the back, which helps a lot with holding it in place. But then I liked the look of the spiral so much, and this is more of a single-sided bead because of the texturing on one side, that the third version, I guess now the fourth version, I put the spiral on the front. Apologies, I can't zoom in quite as much. I'm using the new phone, which is always a little trickier with focusing. So we're just going to leave it here. If you're on YouTube, you might be able to pinch in. Someone test that out. That might be a thing. I'm a little, I don't think, because Shire, if I hold it up here, it doesn't like to focus at all. So hopefully we can be able to make it work from here. I don't know why it's so different on the new phones of like where it likes to focus, but it really likes to focus right here. So I had already kind of strung this up with some of these guys and some seed beads, and it was looking pretty good. But we're going to start today's class just with all sorts of wrapping. And I might even take on the challenge of coming up with a third version. So we'll start by going through these two main versions of wrapping up your Brio. And then maybe we can kind of crowdsource what would be a third version that we'd want to experiment with. What's another way we'd potentially want to add decoration to our Brio? I can't say I'll be able to do it on the spot, but the whole theme today is giving yourself the chance to experiment with what you do know. So like I know I have a certain set of skills, and so I'm going to draw upon those, do some experimenting, and see what's possible. So I'm going to be using some wire I had in my stash. This is a 22 gauge wire that's already been antiqued. We have lots of copper German style wire in the shop that would work great. I made a whole collection for today's class that you can see linked below this video. For Brio wrap number 1, we're just going to come with a short amount of wire and just do a pretty standard Brio wrapping before we get fancy, because I know Brio wrapping is not everyone's favorite activity because it can be a little bit more frustrating. So starting with basic Brio wrapping, put your Brio on closer to one, leave a short end essentially, closer to one side of the bead, and we're going to make a triangle. So pull up on one side, hold that securely while you pull up on the other, and you're already kind of starting to pay attention to centering so that where those wires meet is pretty nicely centered above the pear Brio or whatever Brio you're using. From there, you want to bend your long wire up. And each time I make an adjustment, I'm looking at the centering. If it starts to get a little off center, it can be a little hard to adjust it back. And then I'm going to bend my short end so it becomes 90 degrees with the long one. Essentially, that'll let me start wrapping as nicely as possible. I'm going to pull the camera a little bit closer to me, so hopefully I tend to work very close to myself and very close to my eyes. So this should help out. If I do get off camera, we need a secret word for today, like pineapple, and then just let me know that I am off screen. I'm doing one full wrap there. You can do a second one, but it's not necessary. It is going to be secure there because it's going more than one full revolution around. Come in with your flat nose pliers to tuck in the end. And I'm doing another check-in. Okay, how centered is that wrap? Pretty nicely, at least decently nicely centered above the tip of the Brio. It's looking okay to me. From there, you have a couple options. You can come in with whatever plier of your choice and then push down your wire. That'll create a small gap. If you don't want as much of a gap, you can just go ahead and bend it 90 degrees immediately above your wraps and make your loop right there, which is what I'm going to do here. You might want to keep in mind what you're going to be using your Brio for. I made my loop going this way so that I eventually could string it right on without the need of like a jump ring or such to attach it. But you can also make your loop the exact opposite way, about, what is that, 45-degree turn? 90 degree, not 90, I don't know. Turn it. You could do it the other direction. And from there, you can finish off your wrap. So you want to keep this nice and tight, kind of looking where your wire's going. I am someone who holds my loop with my dominant hand. Not everyone does it that way. And then depending on how much wire you have, If you start with a much longer piece, it allows you to do much more decoration. I really like lots of wrapping. In this case, we're just doing a few extra wraps. And we're going to consider this front side of the bead for today's class. And that texture side is going to be front side of the bead. Flip it over. Back side of the bead. That is where I'm going to ultimately trim my wire. There's other options for trimming your wire as well. My other favorite way to do it would be to bring it back around the front, especially if I've done a lot of wraps, bring it back around the front and to the top, back to the top towards the loop. It creates this like nice movement across your wire, and you can attach it right below your loop. So that's a decently neat-ish basic wrap, is a good starting point. But we haven't done anything extra yet. But if you are newer to Brio wrapping, you could just start by wrapping 5 of those until you get more comfortable. So that's step 1. Keep it easy for yourself. I suppose we could do a messy wrap next. We want to make it a little bit more extra. So I'm going to go ahead and cut about 12 inches, maybe 10 or 12 inches of wire. I love getting my wire warmed up by holding it between my flat nose and running it between pointer finger and thumb. Because there's a lot of, this is a copper, most craft wire is copper based, so you can get it nice and warmed up and straightened out, so it makes it a little easier to work with. So from there, we're going to start exactly the same. And I hope by the end of today's class, you're starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with your brios. I promise the more you do it, the happier we'll be with your brio wraps. I wish I could show you the project that I was just working on. I was using the January box, which we're going to reveal on Sunday. I did about 15 brio wraps for the piece. And it was a great exercise, like great reminder for me just to be able to like make sure I'm standardizing how I'm doing my brio wraps so that they look decently uniform. Because especially if you're starting to wrap up earrings, it's quite helpful. All right, I've got my wire going up and I'm gonna bend it. I didn't give myself quite as much room in this one. Some folks will kind of hold their brio and wrap this by hand. I have a hard time doing that and keeping it centered. But if you don't give yourself quite enough room of a triangle, you might not have enough room to come in and grab your wires. This step is super key. I'm using my pointer finger to keep this wire as close to the brio as possible. This is our 22 gauge wire, so it's got some softness to it. I'm really, as I wrap, keeping pressure so that my wraps are pretty tight. So that one actually got 2 revolutions. Come to the back to nip. But using that pressure, I find the main thing I notice is people are wrapping, especially also in wire wrap loops. They do the wraps, but do you notice how maybe your coils aren't together? They're like a little spread out. It's often just a pressure issue, just slightly adjusting. Because if you think about it, if you're wrapping that wire, but holding it this way, of course it's going to want to go that way. That's why your coils are going to come out this way. But if you're pulling it this way or even towards itself as you coil, it's going to stay more in a line versus coming out. Is my light a little weird? I can make it a little softer. They're a little close. I put them a lot closer than I usually have them. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. It's also very cloudy outside and rainy, so some pieces of this are not fully in my control. All right, that should soften up the light just a little bit. So currently, you should have now 1 piece of wire coming out from your brio, and it's looking pretty centered. From there, I'm going to go ahead and just bend it right down. And start my loop. So all I did, pulled my wire over, adjust my plier so I can finish my loop. And it should look something like this. Gosh, I wish I could zoom in a little bit more for you. From there, grab my loop so I have a nice hold of it. I can start my wraps. I am really putting pressure. I'm using my thumb and pointer finger, depending on where the wire is. So there's tension on this wire. If I'm just wrapping loosely, it means you're letting the wire have control. You are in control of the wire. So we're just going to keep bringing this down. Okay, we're still decently centered. It might get off a little bit. That's okay. You can adjust a little bit as you go if you notice it early. And once you get low enough, often we'll switch. And I'll be twisting the brio instead of the wire. So I'm going to put pressure with the wire using my thumb against the brio, twist the brio, and that'll keep my wire nice and tight. Apologies, I wasn't looking what I was doing. I wrapped right over my wire, but that's okay. All right. So there's a lot of pressure. I'm pinching this, holding the wire, and I'm pinching. So as I turn, it stays really tight. This is one of my favorite types of brio wraps because look at the sorts of coiling you get on that pear brio. Let's do like maybe one more just to be extra. And this time I've come to the front of the bead, holding pressure more towards the back so that that wire doesn't move as I bring it to the top and anchor it with a couple of wraps, like 1.5 wraps. And that will be our brio wrap number 2. So we haven't actually added anything yet. What we've done so far is pretty standard wrap, and then so what you could consider a messy wrap, but essentially a wrap with more wire. So we came farther down with the wire and then came back up. Give me just like 10 seconds to see if there's anything else I can do to zoom in and test out my other lenses really quick. Okay, I'm not give up that quickly. Nope. Well, let's see. Nope, you can't. It's not in focus. Well, might need to be time for a true demo cam soon. Go a little higher. Actually, it's better, isn't it? It's like 6:1, isn't it? We're going to try this out for a little bit and see if it's already a little bit more zoomed in. And we'll see how that is. A little bit different sort of demo cam. All right, let me see if I can add a little bit of warmth to our screen. There we go. It's kind of blue. All righty, that's a little bit better. So we've got our 2 wraps so far. And now I want to get extra. We're waited long enough. We've practiced our brio wraps. Let's start messing with them and having a little bit of fun here. We're starting the weekend after all. So here are some of my experiments. We are going to start nice and simple. It's based on the same exact technique we went over, but we're going to add seed beads. So it's just a little bit of how it feels. So I'm going to come in with about 10 inches of wire. Guys, did we actually just find a better way to make this phone work. I am so thankful. Even, oh, thank God. Yay! We love when technology works. I really thought when I got this was the iPhone 14, that it was gonna like be the be all end all for like make a better demo camera, but the lenses we different. So like we don't even use it for the live sales. I use my old phone for the live sales. Alrighty, it is time for our next batch of wraps. So we start exactly the same. So if someone's asking about leaving themselves enough room, so if you want to leave yourself enough room to be able to hold it, it just means you need to make your triangle a little bit higher up. It'll make it a little bit easier to hold it for the next step after you bend your wires. It'll mean your Brio wrap's not quite as close to your Brio, but that's okay. You'll be able to adjust just with more wire decoration and whatnot. It's not the worst thing here because we're going to be covering it all up with seed beads anyway. So I made a slightly larger triangle. Should let me come in here and do a wrap. I do 1.5 to 2 wraps as plenty for securing the base wire. And you should look something like this. Nice long tail. And from there, gotta make sure I don't miss a step. I am gonna give myself even more room to put seed beads. So I'm gonna use the tip of my pliers to then bend my wire down. And that just added on about 2 millimeters of space before my loop. 2 millimeters space at the base of my loop. So I'm gonna come in and actually make my loop. And right from the get-go, we are gonna start, I totally lied. After a couple of wraps, we are gonna add on our seed beads. So we wanna get that loop a little bit secured first. So do at least one wrap around. And that'll just make sure we don't start messing with the shape of our loop as we keep going. Give my phone a little bit less to focus on. And from there, we can start picking up our beads. That's why I have a cloth nearby. I'm convinced this is how Danielle picks up her seed beads so easily. It's because so she always has them on a beading mat. So this is the closest thing I have to a beading mat currently. And it works just as well, but it's about 5 times as easy as picking up your beads, say from like a hard surface. Seed beaders will already know this, but us wire workers maybe don't work with as many seed beads. Might be a little bit more amazed that you can actually just pick up your seed beads so much easier from the cloth, and hopefully won't have quite as many sentence enhancers while making your piece. See, I'm not even getting frustrated right now. Are you kidding? The magic of a piece of cloth. Alrighty. I wasn't paying attention to how many seed beads I was needing. I was going to put on enough seed beads to do a full wrap, but that's not the technique we're doing right now. So I actually don't like putting that many on to start for this one because it's a little bit too much to manage. So I've got about 7 or 8 11-Os. I am using our Toho galvanized Starlight. These have a perma finish, so the coating will last a long time. These are also in the collection I made for today's class that you can find linked below. But it's this lovely golden color that I thought complemented the Brios and the copper wire so beautifully. And from there, we're going to start wrapping around. So this is where you need to make sure you're not losing your seed beads. So I'm putting some pressure where my seed beads end. We're going to start to bring those around. Even with applying pressure, there's still going to be some natural space between the seed beads, and that's actually the goal here. We don't want this like perfect tube. Each time the wire bends a little bit, there's a little bit of a gap between each C bead, and that is okay. It actually is quite pretty. This will be a little bit easier to see once I get it really get going. So I'm going to put on another batch of C beads. This is not too complex. It's more done by feel, because depending on the size of your C beads, how much room you have for them, all that will determine how much wrapping. Because each time I did this, it was slightly different. So keep bringing that around. So each time, it's just filling in a little bit more space above the Brio. So this is actually the front side of the Brio. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to do an extra row. Like currently I've filled the gap above the Brio, but I'm going to do one extra row to kind of cover up the tip of the Brio as well. Almost like we're doing a messy wrap. So let's do one more batch. So you can see this technique is not complex. This one is one that's kind of just fun to mess with. And you could start doing this kind of whenever you like. You could start adding C beads to your wire wrap loops. It's just an easy way to add on decorative C beads anywhere you like. Say you're like wrapping on a bale and you want some extra decoration. You could add some C beads to your wire while you do it, and it'll be very pretty. All right, coming back to our last wrapping on the front of the Brio. We ended up getting this really nice cone shape. When we come to the back, you have some choice here, but ultimately, if I would just cut it right now, it's not secure. So you need to be able to do some additional wraps. I did it a couple different ways. The way that I ultimately thought the look that I liked the most might not be yours, but I came back around to the front. So there actually is a line of copper wire. And then I actually worked my way up, kind of finding where there's grooves. I'm not going to get too much in the way. Back up to the top. So it starts to it messes a little bit with the look of it, which I liked. It added a bit more of the copper color against the gold. You could also wrap and try to and end it at the base, which is what I did on this one, and I'm not too worried about it. I did a full revolution and tucked it as best I could, but obviously there's not a great place to tuck it. Up here, it's a little bit easier. And also just kind of the more you do this, the more secure that wire will be on it. It's kind of a fun technique because each time you do it, it'll come out a little differently. I think it creates a really nice look. I did a little bit more wraps that I had been doing to secure it. It's a little bit in my way, but ultimately it's okay. And that's the idea for our first Brio wrap technique. Just like that. All right, let me check it on the comments and see if we've got any questions so far. So this is 22 gauge wire, 11/0 seed beads. Yeah, okay, I think we've covered the main questions here. So we're kind of moving quickly along. We've done 3 types now: basic, a little bit more messy, full wrap, and then we've added on seed beads. From there, we're going to jump to our decorated Brio. And this is the one where I had to do the most experimentation. Starting from here, did not like the look of it. It was just like, isn't it kind of funky looking? Not my favorite. So I had to find a way to get my Brio wraps to go over the outside wire. So it affects the order of events that we do it in. So we're going to I'm going to give myself a moment to make sure I have the order of events still remembered properly. But I can tell you that we do start with a good 12 inches of wire. I told myself, because I was working on this before class, like, oh, I'm going to remember it perfectly. But because how the wrapping looks, it kind of cover up the work. So I know I come around, and then I work my way back down. So to remember when I made my loop. Okay, I think I remember. This is also the thing with experimentation. As you start to mess with your wire, you have to somehow remember what you did the next time, or just figure it out again. So I'm pretty sure I remember. If it doesn't, there's only one other option of ordering. We're gonna start in a pretty familiar way. The order of operations definitely did affect it. I had a lot of experiments with this one. All right, let's get our wrap going. I don't have quite enough room in my triangle, so I'm gonna have to do the wrap this way by twisting my brio gently. From there, bend my wire down right against above my coils, make my loop. Oh, it's coming right back to me, lovely. And we need to secure our loop again. So we're gonna do 1 or 2 wraps. I did about 1.5 there. I need my wire to come from one side crossing over to the other. So crossing, from here to the other. So even if you wrap the exact opposite way, that's fine. I'm coming from the back, and then this wire is going to cross over. So that is working just fine right now. So even if you have it coming from the other side, coming from the back, and cross over to this side. From there, we are going to put on a whole bunch of seed beads. So say a prayer and get going. And there's one main thing we're going to pay attention to for the seed beads themselves, because we don't want them to sit too high. We don't actually have seed beads underneath the top wrap part there. So we have to pay attention to where we're kind of placing them until we lock them in place with the wraps later on. It definitely made a difference to do the wraps later on because it secured everything in place so nicely. I do recommend doing it that way. All right, let's see how we're doing with our seed beads. So I'm just going to lower down this top seed bead until it's basically in line with where the drill hole. It's right below where the drill hole on this side of the brio is. And I'm going to loosely hold it there. We get to readjust in just a moment. But that's just to see where I am with my seed bead. So I might need one more. Push this down just a little bit. So essentially my seed bead that's starting and ending, my goal is to get them as in line with the drill hole. So they're in line with where the wire is coming out. I think I need to take off one seed bead and readjust. So this whole time I'm trying to keep this formed pretty nicely around, and that's looking good. It's pretty well in line on both sides. From here, hold your beads in place as best you can, and this wire is going to cross back, similar to a herringbone, cross back to the top. And around. So these beads should feel pretty nicely secured. And from there, you can proceed on doing a pretty standard wire wrap. Got my beads pretty aligned with each other. I should be able to squeeze in one more wrap here. And I'm going to come do the technique where I'm coming through from the back and up from around the front to secure my wire. We'll do this one more time now that I've had a good refresher. You've seen it once, we'll do it a second time. But essentially, we've done our wrap. On the next time I do it, I'm going to add my spiral to keep my brio even more securely in place. But with the amount of wire I actually was able to get down here, it's not too bad. And we've got a lovely decorated pear brio. If you have not tried out these pear brios in the shop, we have about 10 colors of them. These ones we had custom made for the shop. And there's some vitriol colors, all sorts of cool ones. So this design would adapt really well. They're this lovely size that, like, this is a great size to become an earring. In this case, I'm using them to become the center of a necklace, potentially. So let's do one more while we're at it. Coming in with about 12 inches of wire. I always have extra wire. I'm not someone who's good about being precise about my wire, which is also why I love using copper wires, because they're much more inexpensive. If I was using sterling, maybe I would start paying attention more, but I've almost always used primarily copper. And most craft wires are copper base. Alrighty, so we are starting it once more. Now that we have the whole procedure, our order of operations down, let's bend that wire. Let's bend another wire. I'm going to enlarge my triangle just a little bit here. I'm going to center my long wire and bend over my short wire. Let's get it recentered. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Because I did that larger triangle, I can already tell I'm going to have enough room just for the tip of my flat nose, keeping pressure on that short wire. Because see how it wants to go this way? It wants to come out. I need to kind of readjust it so that it's making the spiral where it's supposed to be. So I keep having to push it down just a little bit so that it actually makes a friggin' circle this way. It's a little bit of a battle there. I'm going to go around one more time. It felt like it wanted to. Okay. All right, I don't have much to tuck in. Always be gentle when you tuck in your wire because it can start to mess with things. From there, I'm going to bend my wire. Let's make a larger loop this time, just a little bit. Come over your pliers, turn up, come to the back, and let's get that loop secured itself with a couple loop wraps. And I'm coming from my right side over to the left. And that'll be great because that's how we're going to get the sea beads attached. I'm sure Sarah could explain how that is itself herringbone wrapping, but I have never been a master of herringbone. So I'm not going to make that exact claim. But I'm pretty sure that's the basic idea of herringbone. The challenge I thought I did have before class was, like, you know how Sarah will sometimes she does this technique on a coin where she'll put small beads around and then she'll do a second row. It partially works because it's secured on either side of the center bead. They go around, get secured, go around, get secured, go around. So it seems like it'd be hard to do on a brio, but I kind of want to see how hard it would be to do it on a brio. All right, lowering down my sea beads. In line with this wire up here. There we go. All right, looks like we're definitely going to need at least a couple more to be able to get them parallel with each other on either side of the drill hole. So let's see if that's enough. I hope this technique's starting to click in. So I'm just going to push them down here to get it up on the other side. Okay. That side's looking good. This side is, see, missing a little gap before the drill hole. So maybe one more. Yeah, pick up your seed bead upside down, Sam. That'll work great. I think that's about all the beads I'll be able to squeeze in there. So holding my seed beads in place as best I can. I'm coming up. We came around, down, and now we're going to come up. You'll just basically follow the wire. The wire wants to, you're basically coming from the left side and back around your loop to get it the most secure it can be. And that's where it starts to look like herringbone. You see how those wires are actually making a formation at the top there. That looks like herringbone. So let's wrap, and we're gonna make sure Sam does not cut his wire before making a spiral this time. And hopefully I have enough wire. Just enough wire to make do. I'm gonna do my spiral on the front. So I'm gonna bring it all the way around, coming again from the right side over to the left. I'm going to turn that tail of wire into a decorative spiral. So I'm going to do my spiral going this way because I just think it has a nice, if it, I don't know, somehow how I see it, like if the wire is coming this way, then the spiral naturally wants to go that way. And there's obviously many ways to make a spiral. I take my flat nose and pinch it, the tip of my wire over. Oh. Excuse me. Okay. I just like to bring that first bit together. It's not really behaving today, but if you work at it, it'll get there. Come on. Each time I do it, it's coming together a little bit more. All right, that'll be good enough. I don't need a spiral. You don't have to do your spiral as a tight spiral. So maybe it's naturally wanting to become a more open spiral. So for that, I'm just going to try to maintain. It's a little hard to see, but you can maintain based on where you're holding the wire with the pliers. So there's always a gap for your spiral. I'm going to bring it all the way back over to that right side. Just a little bit more. I want it to be off center. And we've got a little decorative element. I'm going to put it down so you can see a little bit better. But that's where we ended up. I would recommend cutting a little bit longer piece of wire because I would have wanted to do a little bit more wire wrapping before I even started my spiraling, because that will get the brio held a little bit better. My goodness, you would have never thought you could do so much brio wrapping at once. But look at the lovely little family collection that we started to make here. I'm going to take a quick pause here. You see my hair is getting in the camera? Yeah, that makes sense because my phone's so high up right now. I have the zoom lens on, so I didn't even think that if I go forward. Oh, wow, that's gross. Sorry about that. All right. Always something new to figure out. From there, I think we should start putting a necklace together, unless someone has a crazy idea of how else we could try out wrapping up our brios. But we have so many brios now, so might as well start making a necklace with them and see if we can make a necklace in 10 minutes to finish off class. I'm going to need these seed beads in a moment, aren't I? But we're cleaning. Yeah, we're going to want these seed beads. Dump them right back out. Okay, so I've got a few bead options for myself here. We've got some of these faceted rounds. This lovely amber color has a few facets actually on the rounds. We've got these still available in the shop that I've linked in the collection. I've got our 8 signs pendant from Tiercast along with a clasp. These are, you might recognize some of our August beads here. And I do have some other August beads nearby in case I do want to theme it a little bit. I do have, I'm getting a lot of ideas looking at the beads because you could decorate. Oh my God, it'd be so fun. It's like when to stop. It's like when you're starting to decorate, you want to start decorating everything. Because I was saying how you could decorate a wire wrap loop. So now I want to do that, of course. And that could become part of our necklace. This part I'm making up on the fly, but it's essentially the same idea. So make a 90-degree bend to start your wire wrap loop. Make your loop. And start your wraps. And then I'm just going to put my bead on for now. And do the same thing. There's a lot of ways you could do this. My initial idea here was just to now add on some seed beads and kind of create little bead caps on either side. If you want to get a little fancier, you could bring the beads around. I don't think I want to do that right now. I'm actually more curious of how it would look just here on the outside. So let's grab some of our 11 O's. This one might even work even better with 15 O's here. Let's see how this goes. So I normally just want to stick my face like right in this pile of beads so I can see them. Who knows how many seed beads we're going to need. Let's just start with the first section here. Get that wire a little bit more out of the way. All right, I need to bring my beads right against the base. I'm already seeing some of the challenges, but might as well keep it there. And then if I just keep going, it's going to be hard to secure it just on this side. It actually would be easier to bring the wire across and secure it. So I'm just going to go ahead and add on more seed beads. It would be easier to secure to just keep it secured on just my left side here if I had given myself more coiling room. But I'm just going to take this as a pleasant accident and decorate more of the bead. This tends to be how most of my beading projects go. I think I'm going to do one thing and then, oh, that worked. Let's try something else. And I usually end up using none of the beads I initially set out to use. Today I did pretty well. I knew I wanted to use the pair brios. And here we are still using the pair brios. Alrighty. Let's see how we can get these beads decorating. All right, so I can already tell to then secure on this side, I'm going to need more room. So I have not set myself up for success here. You need places to anchor your wire. And I simply didn't give myself that. So we're going to do one more experiment. This is exactly how it goes anytime I want to do something new. It mostly works, but just not quite. One more time. And I think we're going to have a great, cool accent bead. It could almost become part of the focal because I do kind of want it to be mostly a strung project. So if it could more hang, could this become a bail? Y'all, what if it became a bail? We're about to make this so much harder for ourselves. Oh my God. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm determined. I like really want to. This is when wire gets really fun, is when you start seeing all these ideas. Alrighty, so there's a lot of ways to do this. I'm ultimately going to secure to this. So I'm going to need a big loop at the bottom. Oh, this is doable. This is doable. I'm deciding where I want my beads to start. Probably easier to start my beads from the top, swirl them back to the down here. Okay, so seeing where I want my slightly longer tail thread. All right, y'all, we're making a bail, hopefully. So this is also kind of part of the bail. So let's actually wrap it more than once. So I'm going to bring the wire right back up. We're going to steal a little Sarah Lovecraft idea here. Okay, let's do 3. So your goal here is just to get 3 loops parallel. It'll make hopefully a nice looking bail. And also now my wires are going to be easy. Now that I did 3, they're going to come together a lot easier here. See, I just made it twice as complicated as I needed to. Okay. Okay, we're not going to cut. We're going to do our best not to cut. Okay, we still got this. We still got this. So I imagine that was my single loop. From there, I can secure it by doing my wire wrap loops. Y'all with me so far? And I'm going to give myself ample coils. Maybe 5. I'm going to do more than I think I need because I think I'm going to need the space. Let's put on our round. All right, and then here's where you need to create space for yourself. So I'm going to come to the back of my flat nose to bend. We need to make a large loop to be able to go through this guy. So already that's not going the right way. Let's just get that turned, because I want my loop to come into my focal. Why am I doing this? Grab some bail making pliers to make sure our loop is plenty big. Okay. Yep, that's on. Okay. It didn't need to be that big, did it? Well, here we are. Let's finish off the bottom coiling, and we're going to start to have more structure. Like it's because the more you layer on these wires onto each other, the whole thing's just going to feel a lot more sturdy. So let me keep going with this coiling at the bottom of the bead. And this whole thing is going to feel a lot stronger. Will I have enough wire to actually decorate with seed beads? We'll find out. All right, we got some wire available to us. We can always add on more if we really need to. All right, let's start with our longer. Let's get things readjusted. Got a little off-centered here. There's a lot of wraps going on. All right, we have the base of our bail there. Let's add on our gold seed beads. I think I've lost it. I had such a good idea going. I knew what I was doing, and then I decided not to do it. Well, actually, we're going to do all of the ideas at once. Maybe I just want to be able to do this so I don't have too many seed beads on here. All right, I'm going to start just by coming across the bead. This is all a little tricky because we do have multiple wires going. It's not necessary to have, it'd actually be easier if you just had one longer piece of wire, but I'm using what I got here. Because if you have one, you just have a lot more control of where you can go. Get this out of the way. Where is my working thread? Here it is. From there, I still have room, so I need to first off just anchor this better. Okay. Let's take a pause. It's like with painting, you need to pause before you keep adding paint. I still have room on this working thread, so I'm going to go ahead and add more seed beads. Come on! Oh my gosh, I can't pick up a seed bead anymore. Yes, they're going, they're going, they're going. I hope you are finding some entertainment out of this. I'm going a little crazy now over exactly how this piece is. And maybe it's because I don't know how the piece is going to turn out at this point that I'm like, what is happening? So I really like that this one kind of crossed over the bead. So maybe I can kind of try to replicate that, like crossing back over. Let's get one more seed bead on there. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut this wire. I'm just going to cut this wire. And then we're going to figure out what we want to do, if we want to do anything else with the remaining wire, which I think I do. I think I could double up at least that front one, which I think would be very pretty. Why not have more gold accent? I'm a little behind in the comments because I got very focused, but I'll catch up in just a few minutes. If you had a specific question, maybe comment it again so that I can try to take a glance. But essentially at this point, we are following the whims of wire ideas, and we're going to put our necklace together. Okay, so that's the front. It's not really a front to this pendant, is there? Okay, we'll declare this the front. And now I am officially out of wire, unless I add more. So that's the front. That kind of came out well. I mean, I'm liking the look of it. It has those two decorative bands going over the bead. For the bail itself, Sarah separates these wires, which is so smart. She usually does it with 2. Today we're doing 3. So I'm just separating out each of these guys. And just kind of makes a cute little bail. All right, we finished our focal. Let's put a necklace together. After all, I've got some champagne soft flex. We currently have this available in a trio. And let's do, I don't know, about an 18, 20-inch necklace. So let's do 20-inch necklace plus about 4 inches. We don't need that much. 3 inches for crimping. also design just directly on your spool. That is not my style, because I like to kind of design from the middle. So let me get my pendant on there and see what looks good next to it. Oh my gosh, you know what we could have done? If we could have put seed beads on, if we made the loop a little bit bigger, put seed beads on it to fully decorate that. I hope someone does that, because that's so much better idea than what I just did. All right, I'm just getting a few seed beads to hopefully fill in the area where the bale itself is before I start putting on beads. Oh my gosh. It's a lot easier to pick up the seed beads with the wire. And then from there, I'm going to build out with all of our existing components and beads, and it should be smooth sailing from here. So I have on one of those 3 cut rounds. From there, let's figure out what we want to do. We've got lots of great options. Let's start fancy. We'll put on a nice decorative one. I'm going to attempt to do a seed bead on either side of those guys. And this is where if you make, when you do it, if you do consistently smaller loops, that seed bead will actually hold it in place pretty nicely. Otherwise, you could just put each of these drops between 2 of these larger beads. Let's see how this works up. I am very curious at this point. We're very invested and I'm very tired. I'm going to switch off to a different style of wrapped brio. No, I won't. I need a seed bead. Seed bead, brio, seed bead, round, seed bead, nope, bye-bye seed bead, seed bead, second round, seed bead, different brio wrap. Let's do, the main thing I'm just looking at as I'm stringing it is making sure that textured side is facing front here. All right, I'm going to pause really quick and see where you guys are at. I'm missing so much in the comments. I'm so sorry, but I'm glad you guys are having fun. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with both. All right, let's just finish up our necklace. So I'm just going to continue the pattern here, keeping it nice and simple. And now we can just chat about other things, and I can take my mind off exactly what I'm doing. The main thing I really want to make sure folks know about is that we are doing a Tucson competition. So we did our first competition in November. We did our first showdown, and we're doing another version of that competition. Let's do a simpler wrap here, or let's save that one. Make sure we have enough saved for there. That'll go there. So I can use this one. Okay. These could also be closer together. It's kind of up to you how you want your design to lay. I think I like. I have an idea that I'm like, do I want that? No, I think I like it. I think that's nice because then there'll be 4 on either side of the center, so it's a total of 9, a nice odd number. I think that'll work. So I can switch over to the other side now. All right, so Tucson competition. The main component that has been announced is that anyone can compete again. So we have released the competition box for anyone to be able to compete. It's a little different box. This one has more gemstones in it, so it's just a slightly more expensive than the last box. But we were able to pack in some good beads in it. It has 44 bucks of beads. It has like Amazonite and red jasper. It has a full strand of apatite. It has some carved howlite and then lots of beautiful like specialty check. Has some tiara cast. It's a great little collection that Rachel and I put together that I hope folks enjoy. So that kit is now available. We're not charging $44 for it. But if that is the retail value of the box, like if you were to purchase the beads individually. So if you purchase the box, it is $36, and you do get to see a little bit sneak peek of what is in it. And then you have until March 3rd to design with the box and submit your design, just like last time, where you can submit 1 photo. You can make up to 3 pieces. There's requirements of how many beads you do need to use, how many different types of beads you do need to use. And also when we are judging, we're looking at hold on, I gotta follow my pattern. We're looking at like how well you use the beads of the box. So we really want to make sure you really want to be featuring the palette that we've put together, because we're going to be looking to see how you've taken the palette and turned it into finished pieces. So I really urge you of course can use beads from your collection, but really try to design it around the collection that Rachel and I have put together. And I love the colors of it. Just like we did these like soft Amazonite blues with the reds, a little bit of orange. So we really went for this for a nice Tucson Southwest, kind of take on slightly varied Southwest theme. We didn't want to just do like turquoise and coral. So we did a version of that had slightly softer tones, especially of the blue. So I really hope you enjoyed designing with it. That kit's now available. It's on the homepage of the website. It's also on the app. I gotta turn my pear brio around. So that should be a lot of fun. When we're actually in Tucson, my goal is to be able to do at least one event using the box. So I'm hoping I can gather some friends and we can do a little mini showdown while we're actually in Tucson using the Tucson kit. So all those details will be announced. Just make sure you're on the Sans Beach Club email list and the text list, and you'll know when it's happening. I'm liking how it's coming together so far. Yeah, someone said, check my last brio. Thank you. I eventually caught it. You guys have much better eyes on the piece than I do right now. Also upcoming is lots of fun things with Sarah Lovecraft, because the January box was a collaboration with Sarah. So I'm just so excited to get to actually see what she designs. Now that we picked out all the beads together, she had to pick all the colors. She was involved in every step of that process of making the box. So now we get to see what she actually comes up with using the box. I've also started to challenge myself to see how much of the box I can personally use. I've already pretty much entirely used up my 2 first baggies of beads. So I made my first dent. All right, this had 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 1 more of this style. This one's a little smaller. Oh, that one's already used. We'll use this one. Think a little bit about how the sizing is graduating, using some of the larger styles and ones with more beads closer in as much as I can. All right, so now we should be even on both sides. And here's how it's looking. It's definitely not what I was expecting with how this bale is looking. Let me take it in for a second. I think I'm liking it. It definitely is. I think we need to bring in that color again though, because I'd like that green, but it's not anywhere else in the piece currently. So I'm gonna needs a little bit more space before that bead. A couple more of these seed beads. I don't like when beads feel like mushed with the other beads too closely. That's why I use so many spacers, because I just think if they're too close together, you don't actually see any. Like that was so close to that brio that I didn't feel like I got to see either piece. All right, I think I have 3 seed beads on that side. Also, hallelujah, we're going to start incorporating a larger bead. Maybe it'll help string up this thing. All right, starting to bring in some of that green, which is nice. And from there, I usually just kind of continue with my pattern. So it's going to be mostly those 3 cuts, maybe an occasional more of that large one. So at this point, we're about to enter the territory of the necklace where you can't see it as much. This is our full focal center here. So obviously it's still going to be pretty, but like I'm going to start to lighten up the beads that are being used, especially in terms of sizing. So I'm going to switch over to using 3 seed beads. No, why not? There's already 4 there. We'll make it 5 to make a nice even number. And you can come up with whatever pattern you like here. Oh, sorry, I put my full head back in the camera. I'm so sorry. I have no awareness when I did that. Three, 4, 5. What do we want to do next? Maybe another 3 cut. I don't want to use too many of these large ones. I think it'll be too heavy feeling. But I do want to use them for the accents. I feel like I can kind of see where this piece is going now. Alrighty. Let's get on one more of our large greens, and that's essentially the pattern I'll probably keep going to finish off the piece itself. So I think we've covered a lot of good ground here. If you catch the replay, if you weren't here at the beginning, we started from a pretty basic brio wrap into a messy wrap, and then into adding lots of sparkle to our brios to ultimately make them these really special design elements in the piece. These beads are a 10 millimeter green marble Picasso. You could check the website if we have any left. I didn't check on this one. This was a last minute decision, but these are a 10 millimeter green marble Picasso. And then the other beads I feature here are the textured pear brios. We've got 9 or 10 colors of those available. This is our ashwagandha pendant from Tiara Cast. I'm going to finish off with this hammer tone square toggle. These are, I think they're tri-facet round. I've got them in the collection that's linked below this video, along with the German style wire. So I think that's basically everything I featured today. We do also have the Extreme Soft Flex in champagne, which I'm using to complement with the gold. Alrighty. Lori, we did this over the last hour and 18 minutes, so definitely catch the replay You started at 3 o'clock today. So everyone, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let me flip the camera around. One moment. There we go. I hope everyone, all right, so many bright lights in my face. Everyone have a lovely weekend, and I will see you soon. I'm gonna go ahead and finish off this piece and get my weekend started very soon. Yes, Angel, thank you for the reminder to thumbs up this video if you're on Facebook or YouTube. We just hit 3,000 subscribers on YouTube today, which is amazing. So if you're not subscribed to YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us. We have all of our classes archived there. So definitely check it out. Grab your Tucson kit, do all the things, and I'll see you on Monday. Everyone have a great rest of your weekend. Been lovely beading with you today.